So this video is going to be on how to use the DDU SSSS. And to remember that, the first step is diagram, second step is data, so diagram, data, then we're going to check our units, and I'll just write in here units, diagram, data, units, select the formula, substitute, solve, and summarize. So there are 7 steps to happiness, and to remember them I just have a little mnemonic that is Darren didn't use some soap, so smelly. So to solve this problem, first thing we're going to do is, the first D is diagram. Over here we're going to do a diagram down in this section here. So a rock is dropped from the top of a cliff. It takes 3.5 seconds for the rock to hit the ground. How high is the cliff? So let's firstly draw our cliff, and we're standing, the little man is now, a little person is going to be standing on the top of this cliff, and they're holding a rock out over the cliff, and that rock is going to be dropped. So here's our rock, and it's going to get dropped in a downwards motion, and in this case here it's saying that the rock is actually going to take a total time of 3.5 seconds to hit the ground, and we want to know how high is the cliff. So we want to know the distance between here and here, the displacement. So we're going to use S for that, and we don't know S. So that's the first thing we're going to do. I'll just fix that S up a little bit, so it's not looking like a 5. S equals, I'll put a question mark. So the second step, and so we've got diagram done, so we're going to cross out our diagram. And the second step now is to draw the data. So I'm going to write over here, I'm going to put the letters that are involved in the 3 sort of linear motion formulas that we're going to use here. And in this case I always write down S-U-A-T-V. And you might like to write them in a different order, but I always get my kids to always write them S-U-A-T-V in that order. And I run around the classroom saying S-U-A-T-V, S-U-A-T-V. Which annoys them a lot, but it also gets them to remember. So the first thing we're going to do is put down our letters S-U-A-T-V, and the S we don't know, and because we not only don't know it, but it's the one that we're going to try and figure out, and it wants us to figure out, I'm going to put a red circle around it. So S we don't know. U I know is, just from practice, is 0 meters per second. A, well, it's on Earth, so it's 9.8 meters per second, but for the sake of this video we'll make it 10 meters per second. The time in the question is 3.5 seconds, and the velocity when it hits the ground, well, we don't know that, and that's the velocity at sort of that instant just above the ground. We don't know that velocity just before it hits the ground, and we don't know that. So what we're going to do now, we can go and cross off the next one, the diagram. So now we've done the data. I'm going to check the units. This is an important step, and SI units, standard international units, meters per second, and seconds. So our units are correct. Diagram, data, units, cross out the units. We're going to select the formula now. And to select the formula, what I always do, I always make sure the kids write down the 3 formulas that are involved, and they write these at the top of every page. So here's my 3 formulas here. And in this case we know that we want to calculate S, because that's what the questions are. So I'm going to go through first. I'm going to identify any formulas that have got an S in it. That one, and V equals U plus AT obviously doesn't have an S in it, so I'm going to cross it out because I can't use that formula. I want to try and calculate S, and it doesn't have an S. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pen, and I'm going to say, well, I've got U, I've got A, and I've got T, but I don't have a V. So if I've got a formula with a V in it, I'm going to cross that out as well. So I'll cross that formula. So this formula now is not useful, and I know that this is my formula that I need to use. And so that's the formula, selecting the formula step, where I write that down in here, S equals UT plus half AT squared. The next step, and then I'm going to cross out the select the formula step, substitute, solve, and summarize. So we're going to substitute S equals UT plus half AT squared. S I don't know, so I'm going to leave it as S. U is 0 meters per second, multiplied by the time, which is 3.5 seconds, plus half A, which we said is 10 meters per second, times the time. And the time is 3.5 times 3.5, because remember it's t squared. So S equals, now 0 times 3.5 is 0, so I can cross that out. So it's going to be half of 10 meters per second multiplied by 3.5 times 3.5. And the next step, S equals half of 10, so we're going to say that's 5 meters per second multiplied by 3.5 by 3.5, which is 12.25. So S equals 5 times 12.25, which is 61.25 meters. Remember, S is the displacement, so the distance from the top of the cliff where the rock is to the bottom of the cliff is 61.25 meters. So I've done the diagram, I've tick, I've done the data, I've done the units, I selected the formula, I substituted, I solved, and my last step now is to summarise. And so down the bottom here we are going to summarise it, and to summarise we usually go back and we look at the question and incorporate the question in. So we'll say if a rock is dropped from a cliff, the rock is dropped from a cliff and it takes 3.5 seconds to hit the ground. The cliff is 61.25 meters high. 61.25 meters high. And that's how you use the 7 steps to happiness.